community. Something different and unique about the LGBTQ plus community is that we don't encompass, one skin color, one gender, one nationality, one ability, one affection. We encompass all. And unlike other minorities, we don't wear our minority on the outside. It is who we are, embedded into our souls, embedded into our everyday life, which is why we have to come out of the closet, just to kind of let the world know who we are. And today, in this day and age, as far as we have come, there is still a lot further that we need to go. And I think that we are seeing a lot of old hate coming up. And I think that that is making this National Coming Out Day even more important than what it had been in the past and what it was in the past. And every day that we come out, every day that we live and be our authentic self is an act of bravery. Being ourselves is a radical act of defiance of those that would have us oppressed. And for that, I am proud of each and every one of you. I am proud to be exactly who I am, a proud, brown, lesbian woman. And I am so happy and so excited to hear everyone's stories today. So we're just going to go down the line here, and I will ask each of you to share your name, a little bit about yourself, and then we can get into our program.
Well, thank you so much, and thank you all for being here at the National Coming Out Day. I'm Renee Spring from Morgan-Yale, and thank you for thinking of South County too when you celebrate something with Silicon Valley Pride. We're actually part of Silicon Valley. I grew up in Switzerland, moved to the United States in 1998, met my now husband Mark in 1998, and we're still together. He's actually here as well. This is Mark. And in my day job, I work as a program management director for Cadence Design Systems in San Jose. And in my evening job, I'm a council member of the city of Morgan Hill and the first openly gay elected council member in all of South County. And I think only one of two in all of Santa Clara County. So yes, lots of work to get done. And we'll talk more about coming out and so on later on. So I'll hand over to you.
Hi, my name's Alicia. My pronouns are she, her. I am a proud transgender woman. I'll share more about my story later. I am a full-time college professor. I teach meteorology at De Anza College in Cupertino. And then I also teach part-time at San Jose State University. And my head's always up in the clouds.
My name is Isabel. My day job, well, first of all, thank you for inviting me here. Thank you for inviting people of color too. I think that's very important because I feel like our story is not as heard as just the others. But anyway, point is, my name is Isabel, and I live with my wife for, let's not say how many years. It's going to age me, so. My wife and my furry kids, I live with them, and my day job is I'm a silicon design engineer at AMD, and my day job is a Pride lead at AMD.
So thank you everyone, and thank you Silicon Valley Pride and Nicole and Saldi for inviting me. So my name is Deepa, I go by DJ. My pronouns are she, her. And my day job is I work at VMware as a diversity, equity, inclusion program manager, managing all our employee resource groups. And that's also part of my day job, which is amazing. But I'm also the vice chair for the Silicon Valley Alliance of High Tech ERGs for Pride. There were 50 companies in the ERG. And I agree, thank you for inviting people of color. And as a South Asian woman who came out later in life, when I came out, I didn't see many people like me, or rather, nobody like me, who had husband and kids and was queer and came out in the 40s. So I'm here to represent and show up, and thank you for having us.
Thank you. I'm already loving this event so much. So I think we're going to start with the most obvious question for National Coming Out Day and ask you all to share your coming out experience with us.
I guess I'll start. I forgot to mention my pronouns. I'll go by he, him. Yeah, I remember I was a foreign exchange student when I was 17 in upstate New York, cowboy country, and I fell in love with a guy who played football there. And then I realized, well, maybe I'm not into girls, maybe I'm into men, but we kind of had our thing going during that year, but wasn't officially coming out. And I had to go back then to Switzerland, and soon thereafter, probably like many of you too, I've always known I was different. I just couldn't explain it. I was dating girls like everyone else was, and but it just didn't feel right until I went to high school in upstate New York. And then I started feeling right. So I remember going back, and then first I talked to my friends, and had amazing friends. I grew up in the city of Bern, and I just called them, and they just looked at me and said, "Oh, duh, we've known." So probably many of you have heard the same, right? So I thought, well, that was easy. Um, and the fun part is they joined me then going to the gay clubs in the city. There were only a couple, but probably like in most other places, they had the best music to dance, right? So all my straight friends came with me usually when we would go out. And then I talked to my siblings, my brother, my sister, same answer, but we knew. Um, and then the hardest part was talking to my mom, right? And she was fantastic. She had a lot of questions, right? She couldn't quite imagine how two men would just do certain things and how that would work. But over the years, she really came a long way, and she loves my husband Mark just like she loves me. And she's been a wonderful woman. I've had a very good experience, and I know not everyone has that, right? I was well accepted and carried by my family, and I knew I could always go back, and it never was an issue. That my family loved me the way I was before coming out, and I think that's the way it should be. But I know it isn't always like that. So that's kind of the personal coming out, and then later on, you have your professional coming out, right, which is a lot harder. And I kind of realized the other day when I was thinking about it, I blocked out a lot of things, and I am a lot older than all of you here, so and we're talking about the early '80s, and in the city of Bern, where I live. The police would keep a register of all the gay people, of all the men. And if they would catch you in a club or so, they would put your name on that register. And employers who would hire you, they often, as part of the background checks, they would check that register. So you had to be extremely careful to make sure you wouldn't get on those registers because you probably wouldn't get hired anymore down the road. And I totally forgot about how bad that was in those years. And the younger ones of you here, thankfully, you don't have to deal with things like that, but we had to. And then the other bad part was AIDS just started going through the community in those years, right? And instead of going to parties, I was going more to funerals. It was so sad. It was no fun coming out in those years. But when I moved to the States in 1998, I made one decision. I shaved my hair, I got a tattoo, and I came out. It's right there at the top. Yeah, I said, I'm not going to do that anymore. And ever since I've been working, and it is so liberating when you work. And you just say, often they ask you, well, do you have a family? Yes. Are you married? Yes. How's your wife? Well, I don't have a wife, I have a husband, right? And many of us have gone through these kinds of situations. So I didn't have to deal with that anymore. And I just realized we have something in common. After 20 years working for Cadence Design Systems, last year they asked me to become the lead of the first LGBTQ inclusion system. So, and just for the second year in a row, Cadence Design System has also been a sponsor of Silicon Valley Pride. So I can help from that part. So I could tell a lot more, but I don't want to because we have 3 other ones to tell you. So I'll hand it back.
Wow, how can I top that? So first, actually, I'll apologize really quickly. a full face of makeup, a wig, and he don't work very well. So if you see me rubbing my eyes or if I look really uncomfortable, it's just because I'm sweating a lot. I overheat pretty easily, so I apologize for that. So if you see me up here like that, that's just because I'm sweating and I'm big and whatnot. Oops. Hey, somebody's handing me a fan. Oh my gosh, thank you. Oh, lifesaver. Oh. Whew, that really helps. Okay, so that being said, where do I begin? I mean, that kind of sounded like a whole life story, and I have to admit that my coming out story probably began, I would say, about 25 years ago, when I was in junior high. During that time, I think obviously everybody is going through a lot of change, and they're starting to notice things, and I was too. But one of the things I was noticing a lot about the ladies that were around wasn't so much like I was like super attracted to them. Not saying I wasn't, but more like I love that outfit. I love how they get to express themselves. Like I love that dress. And it just kind of felt like, why can't I wear any of that? Or why can't I express myself like that? Why can't I present like that? Why can't I do that? And all I knew really was that it was just taboo. And at the same time, people like me were really only seen on the Jerry Springer show. There was a sitcom that had come out on Fox during the time about somebody a columnist who had lost their job and got a new job at the same company, but they had to present as a woman, and it was presented very demeaning. And so it was just seen as like something I was supposed to be ashamed of. And I would say I probably carried that with me for quite a while. What's interesting is in terms of coming out, I would say that, to be honest, the hardest person for me to come out to was myself. And the reason why, and I don't want to speak for everybody here, but I'm sure I can speak for a lot of people in the LGBTQ community. When you come out, you're accepting that there are parts of your life that aren't going to be easy. You're accepting that there's a lot of people in your life who might not be in your life anymore. You're accepting that there's going to be a lot of change. Yes, I've had a lot of support, and I have some amazing people here right now. I have my amazing wife, Jamie, here, who I have to admit, one of my favorite things about our relationship was I came out to her as a cross-dresser before we even started dating. That was 19 years ago. And she has always stood by me. And that's not to say it's been easy. We've had arguments, we've had struggles, we've had all kinds of really tough times. But I think coming out to myself, to me at first I was like, okay, well this is something I can, hide behind closed doors. Nobody needs to know about it. And I'll have to admit I tried that for a long time, and it just didn't feel right. Something just felt odd about it. And I think what felt odd about it is like, here I am finally being able to express myself, but not in front of anybody, not in my everyday life. Like I have to hide this. I have to be ashamed of this. I have to hate myself for this. And I really did. I hated myself for so long, and I hated who I was. I hated why. And then a few years ago, I had a really bad bout of depression. And one night, I don't think she remembers this, but one night I had held a party at our apartment. It was a really fun night, but it was a bottle share, and I had a little bit too much. And that night, Jamie heard me say, I want to be Alicia. I just want to be Alicia. I'm so sorry. And it was around that time I realized like something has to change. This is being bottled up. And so little by little, over the next few months, over the next few years, we kind of started working through that together, wrestling with it. And then it finally hit, I'd say probably about a year before COVID. Um, it finally hit that, like, yeah, this is something that I at least need to start finding like ways to express myself. And so I did that. But then COVID came, and obviously the whole world gets shook up. And during that time, I had a lot of time to really look into myself and really look into like how I'm living my life, what I'm doing. And it kind of makes you stop and get pause. And I just realized, like, as soon as COVID ends, like, I just want to be Alicia. I don't want to hide this anymore. I don't want to be ashamed of this anymore. And so I finally broke down and finally told Jamie, like, sure, like, I want to transition. And what's funny was her response was literally, I know. That really was her response. And she said, and I love you, and I will still be here for you. And we both don't know how this is going to work. Like, we're going to lose a lot of friends. We'll keep some friends as well. I'm thankful for some of the people in this room who are friends. My amazing friend Jennifer's here. One of my colleagues, Jamie, our new Pride Center coordinator, is here. I know that there may be a few people watching this right now. If you're in my life, like, thank you. But then it was like, okay, now I actually need to come out. And so, just super quick 30,000 foot overview. It was during COVID with the whole tier thing, and so I came up with a list of tiers of like, okay, my green tier, these are people I know are okay. Like, they have been outspoken allies of the LGBTQ community. I know I can share this with them and be okay. So I started telling them pretty quickly. Then there was my orange tier, and in roughly around New Year's 2021, I came out and started talking to them, and the overall response was extremely positive. And then there was my red tier. The people I knew were just we're not going to be okay with this. And so I ended up coming out to everybody in June of 2011 or 2021. Sorry. And I have to admit that I've had some difficult times. I had one person compare me to Sodom and Gomorrah from a church I'd gone to a long time ago. And at the same time telling me that they were hurt that I backed away from some friendships, and that was really hard. But yeah, I mean, so, and then professionally, to be honest with you, I'd say 80% of my friends, 80% of my colleagues were already people I considered my friends. And so it was actually pretty easy to sort of do that. So anyway, I mean, I could talk about this for like an hour. So I'm a teacher, I love to talk. So, all right, so yeah, I'll stop now.
Before we move on to Isabel and DJ, I want to kind of add a little bit to this question for the both of you, since you brought it up in your introduction. Is coming out, yes, but I also kind of want to hear the culture side of it and what it meant to you from your family and coming from a person of color.
Yeah. First, well, I hate to tell you this, but my coming out with my family and the person of color is pretty boring. They kind of know since I was 7. I think they go, well, duh, yeah, we know. So, well, Sally knows about this, but the Philippines, where I'm from, is 99.9% Catholic. It's very hard to come out. But my parents and my family, my siblings, they're all very supportive. They knew that I like girls in the beginning. But I think the hardest part that I have had coming out, and I feel like everybody comes out every day, right? I mean, everywhere that we meet people, we come out. In fact, I came out today at work. But anyway, the point is, coming out in a Filipino family that's religious, all that it's kind of difficult. But all that my mom had told me is like, as long as you're happy. That's all she said. And I thought that was admirable coming from a super religious parent. That was That was me.
Share a coming out story or?
Well, I kind of did.
So mine is a little more. The nice thing about going last is I can always say all of the above.
Yeah.
All that has happened. So always knew I was queer, but growing up in India, so I grew up in India, born and raised there until I was 26. I knew I liked girls more than boys, but there was no cultural reference point for me for that. Nothing in the culture, nothing that was talked about. Of course, women having sexual desires of their own was that itself was not okay. Anyway, so I knew, but then ended up doing all the good girl things that I was expected to do. Got married, had kids, and my parents passed away in a span of very close years. I was close to my family and my parents. 2011, 2013, I had I had my own cancer stint, so suddenly life was short. It was unpredictable. I was in a relatively like from the outside perfect marriage, pick a friend's house, beautiful kids, a good man as a husband. I was miserable. So it came to a point where why the hell am I miserable? And so I had to do a lot of soul searching, and coming out to myself was probably one of the hardest things because it was a whole lot of shame and internalized homophobia that I didn't even know I had. Because outwardly I was very open to anybody else, but for me it's like, so I actually found a group online. There's a book called Living Two Lives by Joanne Fleischer, and I recommend that book to anybody who's in the place that I am. Um, and she did a workshop in Philly, and that weekend was like, okay, I'm not going crazy, so I'm not giving up all this stuff that I'm supposed to have for something that is like I'm not going nuts here. So I came out. I came out to my ex-husband at the time. It was not received well, needless to say, because I kind of pulled the rug out of his whole life. Part of the coming out to yourself hardest part is the repercussions of that action are going to be multifold, and you're going to hurt the people closest to you, which was at the time my husband and my kids, and I knew their life the way it was now, it was not going to be the same. Because once you see it, once you come out to yourself, you can't unsee it. You can hide it, go back into the closet, but then you're just miserable. So anyway, so culturally, my family is okay, and I feel like some of you, people who knew me before I was married or when I was growing up, like, yeah, we kind of knew it. That's you, doesn't surprise us. But I lost friends who were here um, from the South Asian community, and that's fine. It's collateral damage. I made some amazing new friends, and who just accept me for who I am. But from a cultural perspective, it's not something we talk about. And like I said in the beginning, I didn't see anybody like me, so I make it a point to show up, even at work. So from a work perspective, I was at a company I was not out there, but then I joined my current company, VMware, which I knew had a culture of being diversity minded. So that was a very specific reason I joined the company. And the first month I joined up Friday Energy, and I said I'm going to show up. And for me, the hardest people to come out to, and this has been extreme, and that's perfectly fine. I'm okay there now, but it's the South Asian community. There's always this fear of judgment that for the longest time I felt I would be judged because I know how to think. Now I don't care because I'm who I am, right? But yeah, so tech companies, we have a lot of South Asians. So I'm like, okay, I'm going to show up, and if they have an issue with it, that's so be it. But yeah, that's really it's getting better, I think. India struck out the law that made homosexuality a crime not too long ago, so we're making progress in the world.
I've loved each and every one of your stories. They all touched me somewhere different, deep inside my heart. And I mean, they were all beautiful. And I think something that's also unique to the LGBTQ plus community is we have our chosen family, because there are a lot in our community that their families disown them. Our youth is some of the highest rated unhoused population, and that's why we have a community. That's why we call each other family. So I'm just touched by all of your stories. It really touched me. So I'm going to combine the next two questions. Maybe if you could give like one or two sentences about what made you realize you were ready to come out. And did you have like support of friends or family? I know some of you have already touched on that, but yeah.
One or two sentences for someone who's in politics. I think I talked about that. So the answer is yes. I was one of the lucky ones. I had, again, wonderful families that was very supportive, and that is key, right? It is heartbreaking, and I still come across, as you mentioned, young people, even here in the Bay Area. I went to a funeral of a young 21-year-old a young man who took his own life because he was torn between the expectations of his parents and grandparents and the church they go to and his own self. It still happens, yes. So the suicide rate is the highest amongst young LGBTQ youth, even here in the Bay Area and down here down in Morgan Hill where I live as well. And homelessness another huge problem, right? And so I didn't have to deal with it. Of course, we all notice that there's always this thing out there that someone just will not accept you the way you are. I just read the other day, I had talked to one of the guys who wants to become mayor of Morgan Hill, and I kind of told him, well, you know who I am, and I'm married, and you were pastor of a very conservative church in Gilroy, and you want to be mayor, which would be mayor for our LGBTQ community as well. And then it really hurt me what he said, and he said, you made your lifestyle choice, I made mine. So again, I'm older than all of you here, but some of you might remember part 2 of that sentence used to be, and we can change you. Remember that? And it is so hurtful and horrible to still, up to this day, hear that. And for someone who wants to be mayor in the Bay Area, it took me a long time to process that one. Then just the other day, I finally mentioned it on Facebook and said, this is the reason why I'm not going to vote for that person, and you need to know that. So very important for all of us is that we're brave. We are queer. We are here, and we're not going away. So there's nothing wrong with us. We're born this way, and we're okay that way. And you better accept us the way we are, and don't tell us to change. And the more confident we are, whether in our private life or professional life, the better for all of us, right? And we are the role models of the next generations to come, right? And if we show strength and relationships that last, that I'm so proud of you to have a long relationship, and I'm proud of my relationship. It's doable. So don't be afraid of living that life. And so I'll hand over to you.
Wow. So just really quickly, 2 things there. First off, I could not agree more with what you said about how hurtful it is being said, this is your choice, this is a lifestyle. And I know so many people from my old circles who would say that, and probably say that to me tonight. And that to me breaks my heart. Like, why would I choose this? What I've put my wife through, what I've put many of my friendships through, like, why would I choose this? The answer is, the only choice I made was to not repress this, to not hold this back anymore. I'd spent over 20 years, like, beating myself up for it, saying that I was horrible, saying that I could be cured, saying people can fix me, and genuinely believing that, trying everything I could to be fixed. And I would say that, about 5 years ago, that's when really the breakdown happened. It's crazy. During that time, I alluded to kind of something I was struggling with, and I said, if only people knew. There was one person from my old church that said, I would still love you and support you. That person's in the room right now. Sorry. And, that blows my mind. To answer the question about, when did I realize I was ready? It was when it was no longer sustainable. I couldn't hold Alicia back anymore. I couldn't hold it back in my personal life. I couldn't hold it back in anything. And so it was just like, it was unsustainable. I tortured myself for over 20 years trying to hold it back so I can gain approval of people, so I could be accepted, so I could not be tokenized. And that just really was hard. And then the second part of the question, can you say that? I'm so sorry.
If you talk to others, and I think you answered that, Alicia, because your wife was a huge supporter of you, but if there was any others that kind of held your hand or that helped you with the process.
So obviously, yes, my wife, my amazing wife, Jamie, that person who was a part of my old church who's here, she's actually been such a huge part for me, a part of the past that I thought, was never going to want anything to do with this, and yet still, and that's not her personally, but just that sense. A few other people. There is a trans group here in the Bay Area, led by a lady named Ajay Franciscus, who was very instrumental in helping me explore who Alicia was, what this was all about. She really helped walk Jamie through it quite a bit. That was really big. I'd also say that there are a handful of colleagues at work who professionally helped me out. And actually, I'll mention one at San Jose State, our administrative assistant. I'd rather not mention her name, but just because, in case. But I had come out to her very early in my coming out, and she was kind of saying, this department will welcome you, this department will love you, this department will. She encouraged me to finally talk to our department chair, who last year on National Coming Out Day, I came out to. And her first question was, when are we going to finally see Alicia around here? And I can remember Liz, oh gosh, I mentioned her name.
Oh, no.
I'm so sorry. I hope she isn't seeing this, or if she's seeing this, I hope that she forgives me. Phenomenal person. And I've shared this story with everybody. But she basically did something that kind of nudged me in the direction of like, we're going to start referring to you as Alicia now. And like very much like knowing I was ready for it. And because of that, I hadn't dreamt that 2022 would end with me in the classroom as Alicia. And because of her, like I got to hear those heels click as I was walking to a classroom for the first time, like in January, which was crazy. And so, yeah. All right, so sorry I went so long.
And the question when I knew that I was ready to come out, I guess I want to talk about that when coming out at work, because I think that was a little bit more important. That's because I was tired of changing the pronouns. I was just exhausted of lying. I was exhausted of saying, oh, we went theater last weekend, but oh, he, oh, darn it. That was exhausting. I didn't want to wear my ring. There was a lot of pretending. There was a lot of lying, and I was just tired. And so I decided I can't do it anymore. So I just went out, and that's what I did.
So I think, 2016 was when I went to this group and I came out to my ex-husband, but then it took a couple of years to get the divorce straightened out, and that was messy, and all that wonderful stuff that happens in long-term marriage that didn't work out. We married for 17 years and we had a whole life together that had to be unraveled, and it's not a fun process. But then in 2018, my divorce came through in September, end of September. So I was like, okay, November this year, I'm gonna come out. All right? It's like, okay, no more strings attached. I was tired of pretending. Some people knew. One of the first people I came out was a friend of mine whose daughter is queer. So I knew she had gone through this whole thing with her daughter, so I knew she'd be okay. And then I came out to my family, and I wanted to tell my sisters in person. So That was the second part. So like you, I had like this fear of safe people, not so safe people, the rest of the world. But then, so 2018, coming out day this day, one of my friends who came from a really staunch Catholic background, she decided to come out. I was like, you know what? That's it. Like, okay, if there's no other day better than today, so same day, 2018, came out on Facebook, was a huge relief. It's interesting. You don't even know you're carrying this burden around, and that's the best part. Once you lay it down, it's like, oh my God, I can breathe again. And then it was, to Isabel's point earlier, you come out all the time. So, every new situation, you end up yourself in work, whatever. Yeah, it's a coming out process is ongoing, but that was my big pull out of the world, like I'm queer. And then I had all these people from before, even people I knew from work, were like, good for you, proud of you. There were others who didn't want to do anything with me, and it's like, all right, that's collateral damage. I can deal with that. Yeah, that's it.
Excellent. I love all of it. So this next question is kind of a follow-up. And we're going to start at DJ, your end this time. What impact? So we've talked about coming out. We've talked about when you were ready. We've talked about who has helped you through the process. But what impact has being out had on your personal life, on your professional life, whether it be positive or negative? What impact has it had?
Sure, I kind of alluded to some of that negative impact, with unraveling a whole life that you had thought was you were built. So that was not easy, going from dual income to single income, and then all of a sudden being responsible for everything on your own was not easy in the Bay Area. Selling the house, like there's a whole this practical stuff that was not easy. Losing friends was not easy. Friends I thought were close friends, who we did everything with as families. Losing that was really hard. Losing some family connections, especially on my ex-husband's side of the family, which I was very close to, was hard. So all these personal connections was hard losing that. But again, what I've gained in return of that is incredible friends who accept me for who I am. Colleagues who don't care who I am. And that's who I am. There's no pretending. There's no choosing a lifestyle here. This is who I am, and this is it. Like unapologetically, authentically, this is who I am. So. From that perspective, I think it's both good and bad. I think that the good balance is out the back anytime. And then professionally, I think, like I said, I made a very conscious effort to join a company I knew was progressive and diversity minded, and I made it really. So now I have this passion that has come up over the last few years to make work an inclusive place. I want everybody to be able to show up at work, regardless of who they are, what color, gender, orientation, whatever, and just come to work as who they are and make it a safe space. So that has been my goal, and I think I found that niche for where I want to take the next part of my career too.
I guess I just want to talk about one negative, which was in college where I lost a friend. But in terms of positive, I being a part of the Pride ARG at my work at AMD, I've actually gained a lot more visibility, I'd say, because I was the lead. I am still the lead at the AMD Pride. I have visibility and met people that I never thought I would meet. Meaning I never would work with, because I just work in a certain area and designing something, and would never meet anybody else. But then with this, I meet people in marketing, I meet people in sales, I meet people in every aspect, in every department, and then I gain more friends. And then it's kind of like a domino effect, right? Because you meet these people, and then you meet their friends outside work, and then before you know it, you're having a play date. So that's great.
Yes. Personally, I mean, I'll mention just a few things really quickly. First off, I'd say the biggest positive has been I no longer have to hold myself back in terms of like expressing who I am. I mean, to me, that's been one of the most amazing parts of this is I don't have to have this feeling anymore of like, oh man, I wish I could say that, but I would never like get away with that. I made this joke one time. There was somebody from my old church who one time showed up wearing the same jacket that I had just bought the previous weekend from Torrid, and I wanted to compliment her on it. I would say, isn't that jacket awesome? And That would have never gone over well. That being said, one of my friends who came tonight is wearing the cutest shoes ever, and I got to compliment her on them. But no, but I mean, but it just feels like I don't have to hold those things back anymore. I don't have to hold back these things that are who I am. Like, I feel like I can dress the way I want now. I feel like I can express myself the way I want. I can talk the way I want. I feel like that's been incredible. Negatively, I'd say the hardest thing is, and I know that this is something that hangs over a lot of LGBTQ people, but there's guilt. There are friends that I had to let go of, and it hurt, and I know I hurt them, and I feel horrible about that. But I also know that it wasn't sustainable, and I've done everything I could to make my peace, and after one of them tried to compare me to Sodom and Gomorrah, I was like, okay, I could just confirm. Like, I hate to say it, but that I felt like was a confirmation. But that's been hard. And then also knowing the strain that this puts on my marriage with my amazing wife Jamie, knowing that like this is a struggle. This is something that we're wrestling with. This is her transition as much as it is my transition, and and that's not something that she signed up for, and that's something I'm aware of, and that's something I want to continuously be mindful of. Now, professionally, with one exception, I would say that my experience has been incredible. And it's because I had always had this fantasy that if I were to come out, I could use my transness for good. And I'll be honest, as soon as I came out, or as soon as I started coming out at work, they put me to work, which was incredible. I mean, very quickly, the leader of our Guided Pathways team was like, you need to bring Alicia into this. Suddenly I was asked to be on the hiring committee for our new Pride Center coordinator, who's here tonight. Suddenly I'm being asked to help advise the LGBTQ Alliance. And then suddenly I'm fighting for a better name change process. And that for me has been phenomenal. And so, yeah, being able to make a difference has just been incredible. It's every little bump has been worth it because of that.
The scary part is my coming out was over 40 years ago, and I'm not ready to admit that I'm getting so old. Because I don't feel old, but we are getting there, and Mark, my husband's story is so different than mine. He was married as well and brought 3 kids in our relationship, and we have 3 grandkids now. Very different backgrounds and lives clashing at some point. But I've always been an optimist, and there were a lot of bad times. 40 years ago, it was different everywhere in the world. Even in those countries that were on the front a bit of some more progressive. You probably remember in Germany and the same in Switzerland, right? We thought we were progressive, but we weren't. But I blocked out a lot of the stuff, and I have a rule. A friend doesn't leave you just because the way you are, right? Those weren't friends. Let's just make that very clear, right? There's plenty of good people and good-hearted and open-hearted and wonderful people in this world that you can pick and create your circle of friends. You don't need those other people. You just don't. And that's the benefit of being my age. Now I know. I didn't know that 4 years ago, but now I know. And you can run for elected office in a conservative community, a city like Morgan Hill, and you win in a landslide because you're authentic, right? And people like you for the person you are, not for the person you pretend to be. it has become so much easier at work too, now that we have all those ERG and inclusion groups and so on. Now you're in because they need you now, right? And we at Cadence, we grab it and say, hey, give us this, and we want this and this, and we're getting it all. After having worked for that same company for over 20 years, finally they're realizing, wow, I guess there's potential here, and we have to change. So we're getting the first gender neutral bathrooms now on campus. The pride flag is going up. We're getting, and we asked for just a brochure that lists all the LGBTQ plus specific benefits, because it's so hard to figure out what our benefits are, right? And so on. And I'm so happy about that. I know that life is not easy for everyone, but don't force anyone to come out. If you're thinking about coming out, choose your time when you feel it's right. Find someone who stands with you when you do that. If you do it alone, it's always harder than if you have someone with you. But don't just do it today because it's National Coming Out Day, right? So that's not the meaning of it. Do it when you're ready, right? And there's wonderful people all around. You can talk to, there's groups you can talk to, and use all those means to do it right. But don't be afraid. There's a good life ahead of you if you do it. And probably like all of us, I felt like I was so relieved and the weight was gone from my shoulders afterwards, because then you're kind of free, right? And you are who you always wanted to be.
Thank you. You answered our next question. It's good. We're good. So going right into it, great segue. So what tips would you give somebody that's, might be in the closet still, that might have only told one or two people, that might be a youth that is afraid, the repercussions at school or at home? Again, we'll go ahead and start down here, DJ.
Sure, I have three things actually on that. I'm going to take space on this one because this is an important piece of
Always
this whole
take
thing.
space.
See, I'm learning. So the first thing is be kind to yourself. It takes a tremendous amount of courage to come out to yourself and then to even those safe people, because you even if you knew somebody loved you unconditionally, there's always this little doubt of would they still accept this part of me or not. So if you're not ready, I agree with Renee. Yeah, it's not time. So usually we talk about transformation and coming out as a process of like the butterfly coming out of the cocoon, right? But if you have that butterfly come out, its wings are still wet, it's going to die, or it's lethal for the butterfly. So it's a process. And when I was talking about, everybody said it's a process. Like, damn it, what process? But it is a process. You have to be ready for it yourself. And when you are, then find those safe people. And it's just because today's National Coming Out Day doesn't mean today is the only day. I hope there's one day in our lives that we don't need a National Coming Out Day or a Pride Parade or any of that, but you can hope for that. But yeah, so be ready. And then something very important. So if somebody close to you is coming out, just hold that space for them. Just be there, even if you disagree or whatever. Do not rush them, or do not put your fears on them, because that's what some people will do, is like, oh my God, like, if somebody's calling out trans, like what kind of world are you living in, or whatever, like what is happening in the rest of the country, like, yeah, that's all is there, but this is about you. So hold space for them. And I think the final thing is, and this I'm going to really like put it out in caps because this happens a lot, like do not ever out anybody else.
Yes.
Because it's their story to tell.
Yeah.
Out of spite or for kindness or whatever, it is not your story. Nothing in the world, other than the fact that if you think they're going to harm themselves, if and only if, have them find support. You still don't out them, but help them find support. But you do not. That's like to me, is the cardinal sin of your world. You don't out anybody else, even if talking to your friends, like unless you take their permission to say, is it okay for me to tell this person about you? So I think that's a big deal, that people don't realize that we take somebody in confidence or not, or in spite of spite or whatever it is, that has left people I know close to me traumatized because they were not ready. They were like a butterfly with the wet wings. So that would be my thing. Is like just be with yourself, be ready when you are, and when you are ready, you will find all those people that Rania was talking about who will be there to support you. So that would be my thing.
I think what most of us athletes, at least me, is I did not listen to myself. When I was ready to come out, I didn't because I was still afraid, or maybe I just wasn't ready. But I think listen to your gut, listen to yourself, talk to people that you trust, and people that love you, and you will find a way. You will definitely be ready then because you will go. My coming out at work was accidental, but I felt like that moment I was ready because I was tired. Honestly, that's it. But you will know it. You will know it.
So I'm actually going to dedicate this answer to somebody really quickly. I'll be quick about it, but in 2015, it was my second year of teaching in college. It was a summer class, and I had a student who showed up the first few weeks of the class presenting male, and then about halfway through the course, she began coming presenting female. And she's the reason why I want to do this, why I want to be here right now. Because the truth was, the first time she came presenting female, I was extremely uncomfortable. The reason why I was extremely uncomfortable, though, was because I saw Alicia staring me right in the face, right there. And here was somebody who I had no idea how I could help them, what I could do for them. And it was just like, that's not what this person deserves. And so, in terms of what I would tell people, and one thing that was really cool was 2 days later, I saw her and a classmate outside, and the classmate was helping adjust her dress and kind of getting her ready for the beginning of class. And that just meant so much to me. And that actually really gets me to the advice I would give. The first piece of advice I have to give, which is actually really frustrating to have to give this, but I have to, make sure you're safe. First and foremost, make sure you're safe. Make sure that you're in a place where even if the worst happens, you still have a roof over your head. You still have somebody who's going to be there for you. You still are in that kind of environment. Thanks to my amazing wife and some really awesome friends, I had that. The second piece of advice I would give is build a support system. Like it or not, I had to admit that, like, in coming out, I'm going to be losing a big chunk of my support system. And who's going to be my support system after I do this? And I think about that girl adjusting that student's dress, and like, I think of the people who have given me makeup tips, or who have given me feedback on stuff, or who have been there to talk to me when I've hit a wall, when I've hit a point where I felt so like everything was coming crashing down. And the people here have been a big part of that, actually. And then, yeah, I think the last piece of advice I would give is make sure that you do it your way, your time, your everything, because this is, when you're coming out, you are coming out as your true self. Do not disguise that in any way, shape, or form to fit somebody else's needs, wants, desires, ideas, dreams, or whatever, because then you're just back to square one. Be yourself.
Yeah, these are all great tips. I just thought about National Coming Out Day, and I think we should use that day to celebrate not just us, but also the people that support us. And I think it should be a celebration that we have this support system, because otherwise we wouldn't be here if we wouldn't be out, right? And so thank you all for those of you who are in here and have supported someone or still do. But once you're out, I think it also becomes an obligation then to make sure you're confident at home, you're confident at your job, and that you tell people there's nothing wrong. If you hear someone making a bad joke or saying something, whether it's at work or in your circle of friends or so, speak up at that point. It is not okay anymore. It's 2022. Those days are gone when it was okay. And if we don't speak up, no one else will. And again, there's a new generation coming after us, right? The young people, and we owe it to them that we show them that we can live a good life, that we are role models, and that we help them as they go through. Yes, it is a process, and it's not always an easy process, but we have to be there for them. They should have it easier than I had it 40 years ago, and hopefully one day it is not an issue anymore. But it will not always be easy, and there are rainy days in all our lives. But you know, the straight people have rainy days too, so it's not just us, right? So don't talk yourself into feeling bad. They have their bad moments too, right? I see them nodding over here. So, and I realize that, right? It's not just us, but just live life the best way you can and enjoy life, and don't focus on the bad thing. Focus on the good things. If you open your eyes, you will see it. You will see the good people. You will see the beautiful things that Mother Nature gives you, and all those good things. And never ever let anyone tell you there's something wrong with you. No, you are okay the way you are. And I learned that. It took me a while to learn it, but I did, and I'm proud of it. I'm proud of it.
Yes.
Nicole, can I make a petition? Like, instead of calling it coming out day, I don't like that word because it's like coming out of shame. Let's just call it coming into our own day. Like,
I love it.
I love
I got
that.
chills
I
right
don't
now.
like coming
I
out.
love it.
Like, it's like, why do I have to be ashamed of coming out of the
You're gonna have to remake the song now. Thank you all very, very much for sharing your stories. They were all very moving. You all had individual stories and yet similar themes, and I think that's what makes our beautiful community family. You know, and Renee, you touched on this, and I'm going to expand just a little bit because you know I want to tell everybody in the audience, and then everybody watching, and then everybody, you know, just who is struggling to come out and who is struggling, you know, to be their authentic self. And this is more even for us that we live out loud and we live proud. We do stand on the shoulders of the ones that came before us. In fact, I would venture so much to say that we stand on their backs because those that would have us oppressed did not let them up far enough to stand. But we are in a day and age that we can stand. We are in a day and age that we have a voice and we have power in our numbers and we have power in our color and we have power in who we are. And that's why National Coming Out Day, or National Being, what did you say? Coming into your own day is for everyone. And it's for those that come next. Because when we stand, they will walk. And those that walk, they will walk for those that to be able to run coming up after them. So everything we do today is for those that come next. And let's continue to push the envelope. Let's continue to fight. Because one day, we don't need to come into our own. We don't need to come out. We are just going to be. And until that day comes, we cannot let up on the fight. So thank you, everyone. Again, please follow sbpride.com, SB Pride across all social medias. And thank you all very much. And happy National Coming Into Your Own /Out Day.
Thank you.